again today, even earlier than yesterday, but that's because at 9 o'clock I gotta go and monitor the cold shop at my glass studio. So waking up bright and early, it feels different on the muscles. Feel a bit more tired right off the bat. I guess it's not necessarily tired, but it's more of a less woken up. Ah, shit. Okay. Hold on just a second. Always good to have some kind of shoes on while you work out, just to be safe. Safety is always number one priority. Ooh. Usually 20 reps at 15 pounds each isn't too difficult, but man, I am feeling it. And I'm sure you could tell that today is biceps, so bicep curls all the way. Yesterday I said about not eating or drinking anything when going to work out, but that's mostly for core. Just because the area that you're working is your stomach. I'm not working my stomach here, so there's no problem with having something in my belly for calories. So I grabbed some milk. Not sure I like working out this early. This is feeling way too tired. let's see, what is there for me to monologue about today? Haven't had too much work to show off lately, neither on my Instagram nor on YouTube. And that's just because final exhibition is coming up for college, which basically means I have to put on an art show of my work. Little thing, but it requires a pretty good number of things, such as research and what's the word? Research, theming, some contracts even. And it's been honestly quite difficult for me. It's a lot of work. And unfortunately, it's been taking up a lot of my time. However, I should have a pretty nice piece finished today, so I can make a post about that for anyone who's curious to see how it's coming out. But yeah. Now for 25 pounds. But yeah. A little frustrating, but you gotta do what you gotta do. What else is there? That's pretty much it for things to talk about. In terms of at least current events for me. Oh. Well, I haven't been able to just sit at my computer and play games, record anything, stream anything. I have been, while I work, trying to catch up on my anime lists. So I watched the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen. And I watched the second season of Spy X Family. Man, that second one is peak. That is one of my favorite shows. Jujutsu Kaisen was kind of a letdown, though. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of want to rant about that, so I think I will. Probably the biggest problem with that one for the second season was the pacing was awful. And also, I hated the 3D animation. It looked so uncanny. when it was being used for just the casual shots. But even that can be forgiven if the story's well made, but it wasn't. It was bad. Speaking of it, in terms of having actually watched it, so spoilers going ahead, the pacing was off just because the climax should have been Sukuna taking control over Itadori, destroying that large part of the city, Itadori coming to, and then collapsing, looking over the destruction. And they even played the outro music over the scenes of him crying and throwing up and all that stuff. That should have been the climax, and then falling action afterwards, reflecting upon the actions of what has happened. You know, people have died, enemies have died, allies and enemies have just been completely destroyed like that. But then they brought Nanamin back while it was still on really close to that climax, barely any falling action, just for the sake of killing him unceremoniously again, to try and inject more rising action. And the same thing with Kugisaki. Trying to inject more rising action. All in front of Itadori, who at this point should be numb. Should absolutely be catatonic, because there was no time to rest and recover. It doesn't... And then ultimately, the two most annoying characters, Maito, well, he doesn't get killed in a really satisfying way. And he just keeps powering up. And then whatever the fuck his name was, with the marks under his eyes and the hand sword, he just dies unceremoniously, even though he was an awful creature of a being. So that wasn't satisfying either. Man. So, this one season alone established that we're willing to kill off characters unceremoniously, like that, like it's Attack on Titan. Okay, that's fine. A bit odd for how deep we're trying to build the characters and how much time we've spent on these characters, but okay. But then we're willing to bring back those characters just to kill them off again. Why? There's nothing I hate more in an anime or any show. Inconsistent death, where death is the narrative, and it only fits to serve the plot. Something needs to happen, so we'll just make the character die, because why not? It really annoyed me, but yeah. It didn't really know when to stop. That's the biggest problem. It didn't know when to say, all right, the season is over. And I don't read the manga, so I don't really know how the story goes after that section. But man, it doesn't really make me look forward to anything. Because you've already established that any character can die. Any of these characters I've been attached to can die. Okay, well then. I'm not the biggest fan of that unless it's really intense. Right? If that's the point of the anime. Again, Attack on Titan did it really well because it started out, this is survival, and not everyone will survive. It feels an awful lot like they were trying to replicate Demon Slayer. And again, I don't know anything about the actual manga and that release and how that would compare. But it felt an awful lot like Demon Slayer and the Entertainment District, where the majority of that arc, of that season, was a fight. But it was on a much smaller scale, and it built up more slowly. I mean, Jogo Volcano didn't just immolate 3 people in an instant. The power scaling in Jujutsu Kaisen is nuts. I've seen better gradual scaling in Dragon Ball. In the Broly movie. In the original Broly movie. What else can I say? It's Jiu-Jitsu after this season, it felt like the world is optional, is optionally cardboard. Depending on however the plot feels like, where, oh man, Sukuno just went through this entire tirade of the whole city and not even a scratch. Meanwhile, someone stubbed his toe and he's missing an arm now. It's like, people are, or even worse, what's his name? The clapping Giga Chad. God, I'm bad with names. And he's just, okay, I lose an arm. And now I'm just weaker than I was in the last season for no discernible reason. And also, Itadori is still stronger, even though he's like half his height and a third of his weight. It's like, man, nothing feels really good about this, if I'm being honest with you. And I didn't even get to see Panda kick ass. It was actually pretty funny. My boy Hunter started watching Jujutsu Kaisen not too long ago. And he texted me and he said, there's just a fucking panda. And I said, panda is not a panda. And then he said, yeah, pretty sure that's a fucking panda. And then a day later I got a text, that's not a panda. the first season was actually really good. That's why I encouraged him to watch it. The second season was man, it was such a letdown. Maybe that's a bit of a hot take. Because I know I see a lot of memes going around of Jujutsu Kaisen, of the close-up shots of the eyes of the characters, and the whole, nah, I'd win. But aside from the memes, it wasn't good. I wholeheartedly believe that. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, have a good day. Thank you for joining me.